clarity. Speaking to my higher self is therapy. Cause we the gods. We the gods. It's starting to feel like therapy. Speaking to your higher self is clarity. We the gods. We the gods.
Hold on, let me explain this real quick. Pause that for a second.
You're speaking to your
poor connection. All right. So this month I'm gonna be choosing a lot of positive violence. And I'm gonna be really sharing my thoughts with y'all as they come. You know what I mean? But I was thinking about this. Intelligence heals triggers. All right, so walk with me. So I know some people trigger say, well, you saying because I'm dumb that I'm triggered? Just follow along with me. I was thinking about this. I say, if you know somebody is trying to trigger you, then can they? Right? Think about the smartest man in the world. Think about your ability to gaslight them or manipulate them or trigger them, right? And once you have emotional intelligence, right, and you have this ability to understand things from the root awareness, it's very hard for anybody to trip you up and trigger you because you have an understanding, right, which is the key. And what a lot of people is they seek to cope with things, but they don't seek to understand them. When you seek to understand things, it becomes completely different, right? So it's like the smarter you become, you actually heal the triggers because you realize that it's the ignorance that is the pain. It's your lack of understanding the why. So as we become a more intelligent society and community and culture, right, I think we can heal most of what you consider to be mental health issues with just intelligence. Think about that. Maybe you're not smart enough to deal with your problems. Maybe that's a real thing because they don't teach you these things in school. So I think the Sister Raquel really opened up my mind. I've always talked about, mental capacity, but replacing mental health with mental capacity becomes a huge thing. And I know a lot of people, you're so used to processing things a certain way. And when you allow your emotions to lead, right, instead of your intelligence or your emotional intelligence, your capacity to be able to understand things fully, then you're able to dissect things. So typically one of my tricks is understanding the why. Why takes you out of your emotions, right? When you understand the why, you start processing things and thinking, and your brain starts to utilize areas of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the neocortex, right? And so you start learning, right? And learning should be replacing healing, right? So a lot of people use the word healing a lot, but learning is the key because that is what healing is. Healing is just learning. It's processing. It's the same thing. So as we become a more intelligent society, I believe that we can learn what are the root of our problems, and we end up erasing so many of them. And so if you can't handle a post, how you're going to handle a war? So we don't need to have a society that tries to cope with the weaker aspects of us. We need to actually bring people up to be stronger so that you emulate the stronger traits of individuals, right? And so what we have right now is that the weaker, and this is just culturally why, we don't have the strongest and the best of us representing us. Niggas be popular. You can get popular for being weak, and people can follow you because you make pain music, right? But does that mean you should lead us? Like, look at somebody, and I actually like the real skill set and talent of somebody like Doja. She talks a lot about doing dope and, being led down the wrong path because at one point in time she said she was mentally weak and men were tricking her and all kind of different stuff. But we make people famous and we attach this saintly present to them. And we never, same thing with politicians, we never ask though, are they the strongest amongst us? We never ask, are they the wisest amongst us? We never ask, are they the smartest amongst us, right? We never try to figure out these things as strength of why we push people up to be in position. So society is propagating the wrong people. Anytime I do a take about hip hop, it goes viral. So I was just in the studio, I do that. That's fun for me, right? That's therapy for me, right? Expressing myself, if you will. But I said that what's viral or what's vital don't go viral, right? But what's viral is not vital. And it's
non-vital go viral.
Right.
Vital.
The non-vital goes viral, but what's vital is not vital. I know what I'm saying. But if you think about that, is we have, I've talked about this before in previous episodes, how we have an inverse culture, an inverse reality, right? Where we think weakness is strength. And they've convinced us that weakness is strength. And this is why we think we don't have the capacity to deal with things, right? Because weakness is not strength. Strength is strength. A slave is not strong. The master is actually strong. Think about that. And I know that's triggering to a person, right? What do you mean a slave is not strong? By nature, if someone is a slave, then they're not strong, right? That's the whole idea, is that somebody else is controlling your will. That's not strength. When we look at strength in our history, we're going to look at the warrior class, right? We're going to look at those who fought wars and battles and guerrilla warfare. So when you draw from your past, draw from the strength of the strongest ones, right? That is the whole key, because when some people were brought over here, they had to break you down to become a slave. You don't take a strong man and make him a slave. You break a man, then you turn him into a slave, right? And what happened is that we started to think the attributes of the slave were our culture, were our strength, and it's just not at all. And so it's going to take some unlearning for a lot of people. And luckily, I don't have no problem with you learning with me. I don't have any problem with that. So I want to thank you all for watching the episode. And there's going to be a lot of people I know that say, some people say, I can't follow you. I'm going to unfollow you. That's fine. That's because you're weak. I get it. You was weak. Some people made me weak before. You know what I mean? I don't follow them. I had to think about, man, I was weak. I ain't had the capacity to intellectually, right, deal with something, or emotionally, the emotional capacity to be able to process something. So I just jumped away. You know what I'm saying? Instead of actually understanding. And I realized that most of the time what you think is triggering you is growing you. My older brother used to do that a lot. He used to say stuff, and it was like, damn, the only reason I'm bothered is because I believe some of it is true, or there's a weakness, and he's trying to hit those pieces in my armor. And so what I would do is I would process what was being said, what was correct and what was incorrect. And then it got to a point where nothing he said bothered me, because I had fixed all of the problems that he knew about, right? And then I looked at that as a process that was growing me. So it's like if you got a kid that's so-called being bullied in school, right? You have to think about their emotional intelligence and resilience. Why are they poking at your insecurities? Because they know your weaknesses. So how about you strengthen your weaknesses, and then they can no longer poke at them, right? So one of the biggest type of bullies today is not physical bullying, it's emotional bullying. So if your child don't have resilience, then yes, you're leaving them out there, right, weak. So therefore, the world can harm them. That's why I say you do not protect your child, you prepare them, right? You don't try to protect your mind, you prepare your mind to deal with things. And that's the whole idea. And there's too many people trying to protect their mental health. Too many people trying to protect their mind. Prepare your mind, right? There's so many people with future shock right now because their mind not prepared for what's to come. When y'all learn, I don't even tell you everything that I know, because when you really learn like what this administration is doing, I don't think most people are prepared, right? So when you have a child and you have to think about your own brain, if you're trying to prepare your child, right? To be able to handle the truth, not to hide the truth away from them. You're just preparing them. Because when somebody else tells them the truth, Santa Claus not real, they start crying. Your daddy a sucker. Your mama got OnlyFans. Now they getting bullied. Y'all ain't prepare them. Y'all didn't give them the tools to be able to understand reality. So now they can't process that because you've been trying to protect them for the truth. And so a lot of you all are now in this paradigm of mental health, and you don't even know what really mental health is. It doesn't really have a full working definition. Mental capacity does, mental resilience, even mental energy. Because sometimes we just don't have the mental energy to deal with things. I know that. I don't even answer the phone when my mental energy is low because I won't have the mental capacity. So you let too many people dump on you and then it becomes a problem. And that's you. So it is what it is. And then you create a boundary, then you are creating a space to be invaded. And so your mind is more powerful than you ever give it credit for. And then we don't think about changing our life as far as, how about you stop eating the way you eat and see if you're no longer depressed. If 50% of America is obese, then maybe that's the problem with 50% of people that think they got mental issues. Sorry. So, again, I love tough love, right? There's a lot of people giving y'all soft love, so I don't need to do that. And I believe balance is toxic. Too many people trying to find balance, and you need to learn how to balance things out. You know, when I eat food a lot of times, I balance it out with a little bit of cayenne, a little bit of spice. But I don't want 50% cayenne on my food. It'll burn my goddamn esophagus. So a man to tell me, man, we supposed to have balance. We're supposed to be masculine and feminine. Not 50% feminine. What's wrong with you? That's toxic, brother. So Dolce says she found a man that was 50% feminine and 50% masculine. And then she got mad at heterosexual males. No, you was with a gay male, and now how you mad at heterosexual males? Somebody need to explain this to me. It's because I just have a lot of mental capacity to understand things, and I like explaining them to people. So, oh man, oh that's funny. So yes, stop, ladies. If you see a man and he says that he's balanced with he's 50% masculine, ask him what percentage when he says he balances his masculinity. What percentage? 50-50? Leave him alone. You know what I'm saying? Leave him alone. If there's a woman in a relationship, yeah, he's 50-50. That's what it means, right? He's 50-50.
Progress.
Yeah. Half of the time he a man, half the time he a woman. You don't know what's going on. Right? But it's the same thing with a woman. She goddamn 50% masculine, 50% feminine. Hell no, I don't want that. But see, if you balance things out, it's different. Right? I balance out my masculinity for sure. Otherwise, it'll be toxic. Having too much of one thing is toxic. Right? So it becomes acidic in that sense. So it's about balancing things out, not 50-50. We just, even our way that we utilize language and we start talking about math, bro, that comes from the English language. We just round things off because we think about things in like square dynamics. So 50-50. It doesn't actually work like that. You understand me? No. And so you have to have more human-centric language so that you operate in flow and you learn how to balance things out. Yeah. Got to know the recipe to life. So I hope y'all really enjoy this, and I think that you should take this conversation and go to your family and go to your friends and challenge beliefs and ideas and watch just the thinking. Just by thinking and learning, you're going to save lives. You might save your therapist's life because they toxic too. They dependent on you. You dependent on them. Y'all both 50-50 dependent. That ain't good. Anyway, y'all have a blessed and a beautiful day. And let's continue to grow our mental capacity. Peace.